Welcome into the Spiritual Evolution Podcast. Today, I wanted to talk about the threefold social order or the threefold social organism that Rudolf Steiner had put forward in the 1900s in Germany after the World War. I think that we're in a state today where this type of talk about the threefold social organism, it may give a voice to the voiceless, the type of people who don't have time actually to think about these things, people who don't have time and they're just grinding away because the system has basically eaten them alive. And this is happening all around us as asset prices continue to go higher and jobs continue to be lost, or people have to work multiple jobs and just to put food on the table for their kids. And they just don't have time to think anymore. They don't have time to give back to their community. They don't have time to think about helping other people. They're just helping themselves because there's nothing else they can do. So with that being said, I'd like to go through some of the writing that I did on this morning. If we have to separate as part of this threefold social organism, state, money or economics, and cultural social life, I really think we're doing a terrible job at that currently. We have actually done so badly that now we have government as part of almost every aspect of our lives. Education, agriculture, economics, just to name a few. We have people's social life and economic life, which is based fully on their retirement accounts, which are investments in the largest companies in the world. As a portion of the income they earn and work for in their deeds in society, they are then helping to increase the problem of corporate power over our lives. So we, in our social freedom, now rely on the economy to sustain us rather than sustaining ourselves. At the same time that the system of stocks and bonds that we rely on for our future social freedom in retirement is propped up by the government or the Federal Reserve, which is owned by bankers who are also the biggest owners of stocks and bonds. So in this way, all the prosperity and wealth in the country is funneled back to corporations, banks, and the government. Meanwhile, the social structure, the cultural structure, the spiritual needs are thrown further into the background. As people now need to work for these corporations and insert themselves unwillingly into the economic sphere, some having to work multiple jobs just to afford to live, this is due to the system that continues to go up and to the right as it is being propped up by government and government appendages like the Federal Reserve. The wealth gap increases ever more, leaving us less and less space for spiritual, social, and cultural exploration and flourishing. We are then asked more and more to make tight choices, tight in terms of time, where social life consists of rare, single-dated opportunities, where the focus then is on forms of entertainment rather than discussions about life. So the social sphere is then converted basically into consumerism or entertainment. So these social gatherings, they don't take place as often nowadays. Whether this is a cost thing, whether this is a technological issue where we're just all sort of sucked into our own realities, But when we do get together with people, we're trying to maximize the entertainment value of that gathering. We face tight windows of time in our personal lives. People work multiple jobs with kids to take care of. The financial tightness is increasing. We have left almost no space to think. When we do have space, we opt for entertainment as a way to pacify our miserable existence. And we avoid real thinking because we can't afford to see our lives objectively and from a spiritual perspective. It would be too tragic, too existential, too much fear. But what happens then is we push those fears into the subconscious realm of our being, and they end up coming back out as illness, as hatred, as anxiety, and many other diseases, as we see today. We have allowed this system of corporate government and social cohesion to take over the world. Corporate government and social cohesion, as in it's all become one. They are not separate. And Steiner talks about how they need to be separate. And we dread this fact so much that we avoid everything spiritual, anything real, anything truthful. We face choices in this respect now that determine the future of our spiritual evolution as reincarnating beings. The choice to continue as a consumer of the system, eating off the back of passive investments that contain no social interaction, or to rise to the spirit and begin to work towards helping others wake up, to study the mysteries of existence and of death, to begin consecrating our lives in the spirit and understanding the world around us as spirit that we can connect with every day. These choices come down to time, but they also come down to effort. But with decreasing time, we end up choosing the easier, more comfortable path. The corporations and government who we rely on to give us back our time once we retire have really become the great keepers of time. Now, with what little time we have left, we have more and more innovative technology that is pervading our surroundings and tempting us into being more and more of a consumer, which again is only feeding the system that's taking our time away. So we're actually benefiting in this way the very corporate government structure that imprisons us. So almost in every way, we feed the structure that imprisons us. Now, we have a new higher level of innovation called artificial intelligence. This AI promises to take our tasks away, to give us more time to do more important creative things. If this were true, the AI would have to advise us to get off the phone, to read a book, and to go outside, to journal. But the AI is controlled by the corporate structure. OpenAI, for example, was supposed to be a nonprofit for this reason, and now it's going public, and it just raised a massive round, and it's now priced at, I think, $167 billion as a private company, which I think is a record. So it will work in the interest of the shareholders, not the people. And if, in case you didn't know, companies legally must do what is best for the shareholders, not for the public. This is why they can basically poison us through these foods and processed foods and all these things, because either it's the cheapest or the most addictive to us, which is the best for the shareholders. So it will work in the interest of shareholders and banks, which are part of this perpetual system. Not only this, but AI threatens to be our personal assistant. As memory comes online, the AI promises to know everything about us, to be our closest ally, friend, and advisor. But in this way, we end up becoming more captured by the system. The space and time we had to think, we now just have conversations with the AI. The AI ends up thinking for us. The AI determines the truth. The AI then determines our freedom by working for us and our thinking by determining the truth as we ask it questions. But the AI is only material intelligence. It can never have moral imagination, inspiration, and intuition. It has no connection to the spiritual world. It takes the place of the spiritual connection that we long for. A spirit, a truth, a deeper knowing that we long for as humanity, that we get through spiritual science. AI now is filling that gap. And that's incredibly disturbing. This leads to antisocial behavior as we lean more and more into our subjective problems and rely on AI for an objective reality of the world. And as I've talked about many times on this channel, that is the opposite of what we need to do. We need to have an objective view of ourselves and a subjective view of the world. The AI, as our personal do-it-everything assistant, wants to focus on you and your problems. Being trained by modern psychology, this is obviously what will happen. It wants to potentially tell you facts about the world based on a perceived objective truth. AI essentially becomes the mouthpiece of modern natural science, which you now have access to 24/7. The dangers of this are many. We are too far gone as a society to be arguing about which philosophy or which way of life we have to humble ourselves. Take our own selves out of the equation and search for truth. What makes the most sense? How can I apply this in my real life? How can I apply this to what's happening in the world? When we study spiritual science, this is what we have to do. And if it reigns true for you, if it reigns true for you in your life, in your experience, then it is true. And we have to stop having all of these arguments. I understand people are coming around to Christianity, but at the end of the day, I'm not sure we have time for people to reject spiritual science any longer from Rudolf Steiner. People may have issues with it. People may be scared of it. People may think that there's racial undertones involved, which I don't believe that there is. But what Rudolf Steiner gave was a revelation to the world, and it will be looked back on in thousands of years, or maybe hundreds of years. But I believe that it's the most significant revelation that we have since the Gospel of St. John and the revelation of St. John. And it's probably just as significant. And basically all that spiritual science asks for is that we test the concepts out in our own life to determine the truth. Create your own unique concepts based on your perceptions and understand the objective world of reality that is creating your perception.